Hello, it's Ashton Lewis.
And I'm Daphne Lynn.
And you are listening to the
NDE World Podcast.
Welcome to the NDE World Podcast. I am your host, Ashton Lewis. In the studio with me, I have my lovely hostess, Miss Daphne Lynn. Hello, Miss Daphne Lynn. Thank you for joining us today in the studio. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
I'm darn good. I'm darn real fine.
All right, doing good, huh?
How you darn?
I'm doing great.
I am so looking forward to the topic at hand today. Actually, I look forward to all of these. I'm not going to lie. You hear me say that probably on every episode because it's
right,
true.
Yeah, it's true, though. It really is.
You know, anything that we can do to help raise the consciousness, I'm on. You know, there's so much. There's already enough destruction in the world. There's already enough hurt. There's already enough pain. You know, we need to start stepping in and start lifting each other up and start getting back on track with stuff, really. I mean, just open your eyes.
Yeah, we're messengers just like many have been in the past and throughout history.
Still are.
Exactly. You know, Source is using everyone that is willing to open their mouth to help raise the consciousness of the masses.
I'd even go a step further, even those who are willing to open their hearts.
Exactly, yes, most definitely. Well said.
Yeah, very good. So now let's go ahead and put a plug in for the website, guys. Don't forget to go to NDE.world. Okay, there's so much going on over there right now. We've got everything from, there's a bookstore on there now. We've got all the podcasts with all kind of really cool interviews and just reviews and episodes and topics on anything. Over 100 episodes on all kind of topics that are for personal, spiritual growth and development. So, yeah, go ahead and check that out as well. There are direct links to our Facebook group. Definitely join our Facebook group, and that way you can interact with us, and we can interact with you guys. And you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer. Or we have a team of experts that are in the group with us. They'll be glad to chime in and share their expertise. So it's, and like I said, the bookstore. Actually, the book that we're going to be going over today, it's all about UDO, okay, can be found on the NDE.world site. Just go to the bookstore link and you'll find it. Also, we are covering the universal laws, so that's on there as well. Just saying that, because to live this lifestyle, you have to live in harmony with the laws. Well, you got to know which laws are which, and we have to live in harmony with. So that is a really, really good book as well. So anyway, don't forget to go to NDE.world. Again, that is
NDE.world.
Okie dokie, let's jump right into it. Chapter 3 of the book, it's all about UDO, Universal Divine Oneness. All right. Chapter 3, the origin and role of the ego.
What's the ego?
And the birth of separateness. Yeah. Yeah, everybody hears a lot of talk about ego and, what is it? And they think they know what it is, but do you really, really know what it is? Well, hopefully by the time this episode is over, we'll all have a better understanding of what ego is.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So, let's see here. Understanding the ego. The ego is a fundamental aspect of the human psyche that develops as a part of our psychological and emotional growth. It represents the sense of self that we cultivate from early childhood and is crucial in forming our individual identity. The term ego, quote unquote, is often used interchangeably with, quote unquote, self. All right? But in psychological and spiritual contexts, it has a more nuanced meaning. The ego is essentially the part of our mind that differentiates us from others and creates a sense of individuality and separateness.
Yes, and that when you can accept that, your ego doesn't always know best. And just expand your awareness of everything, you can truly grow. But the first time I heard the term really in a YouTube channel was through Wayne Dyer's stuff, letting go of the ego. Like, what? So ego is edged God out, according
I remember that,
to Wayne Dyer. So that is something that we all do, is, we edge and are taught, we are separate from everything and everyone. And that's why it's edged God out. But when we can reunite with that thought, that oneness that is all things, with everyone, you can truly, truly grow.
Absolutely, yeah. And beautiful soul, Wayne. If you ever get a chance, he left us a lot of good information for growth and everything. So you can find all of his information online, Mr. Wayne Dyer. Now,
Him and Alan Watts. Ooh.
Oh, I love Alan. Alan's my favorite.
Yes.
Now, moving right on along. In fact, I love both of those guys. They're beautiful souls. Now, development of the ego. Okay, where does this ego come from? Okay, so let's really start focusing in now. The development of the ego begins in infancy, as a child starts to recognize themselves as a distinct entity separate from their caregivers and environment. This process typically begins around the age of 2, when a child first begins to use the pronouns I and me to express their individuality. This sense of self is an essential part of psychological development, allowing individuals to navigate the world, form personal identities, and establish boundaries. As children grow, their ego further develops through interactions with their family, peers, and society. Social experiences, cultural influences, and personal achievements all contribute to the formation of the ego. Mm-hmm. The ego becomes a repository of memories, beliefs, and experiences that shape how we perceive ourselves and relate to others. While this process is a natural part of human development, it also lays the groundwork for the illusion of separateness that can hinder spiritual growth.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love the way this is really breaking it down. I really think about the different experiences, cultural influences, the achievements that form the ego. We have to really separate ourselves from the ego, the story of our life. This is just our story. It's not who we are. And when we can realize that oneness and really work on uniting in thought, word, and deed, then it's personally transformative. And then it's like the ripple effect. Once you have it going on within yourself, then it can ripple out into the world, to others around you.
Yeah. And keep in mind, guys, your ego is developed at an early age. And like I brought out, when a child 2 years old, they start identifying, with the pronoun I or me, or here's a good one for you. Until they learn how to talk, they're going to communicate probably, in a lot of cases, maybe from crying, maybe, and there are different cries for different things. Maybe a hunger cry
your children's cries, yeah.
Pain cry. So keep that in mind at an early stage. When you start to learn how to communicate with the child, that's right. There's a very fine line in there, because what's going to happen is once the child gets their way, okay, once a child screams because they're not knowing how to ask for something yet, okay, once they scream and that parent gives in and gives them something, that moment in time right there, the ego has been distinguished. In other words, okay, I cried, I screamed, and don't think kids are stupid. We all know this. This is how we learn. I scream, I get what I want. Okay, you see how that works? There is an ego forming there. Yeah, there's a separation. So the child learns that every time it wants something, it will scream. If the parent or the adult or whoever is supposed to be responsible for the child is given in to that.
Right.
You see, it's all about communication, really.
It really is. One thing that I think of, the illusion of separateness, is something that we are taught from the beginning. So with spiritual context, religious context, everything we are taught separate. This is mine, give me this, give me that. Okay, so I did a search on ChatGPT, which areas or regions or religions of the world teach their children oneness with everything. And the list is amazing. I didn't realize so many areas of the world are actually teaching this. Christianity is one of the top ones that do not. There are so many regions of the world that are, and religions that are teaching oneness in their life, to their children. But Christianity is one of those that teaches separateness. That everything is external. When we can accept the concept of oneness with everything, it really just opens up our awareness to everything. And the personal benefits from this, it is enhanced well-being, improved relationships, spiritual growth of all things, societal benefits, living in harmony with everything, everyone, environmental stewardship, global cooperation, psychological and emotional benefits, and even health benefits. And when we can embrace the awareness of oneness, it leads to profound personal transformation and can contribute to a more peaceful, compassionate, and sustainable world.
Right. And that proves right there, that's the issue.
And that's why we have to let go of the ego.
Thank you. Now, moving on along, it says the ego's primary function is to create and maintain a sense of individuality and separateness. While this is useful for navigating everyday life and making decisions, it also fosters a perception of separation from others and from the divine. That's the issue. The ego constructs an image of the self that is distinct and separate from the rest of the world, leading to a sense of isolation and alienation. This illusion of separateness is reinforced by the ego's tendency to compare, judge, and compete with others. By creating categories and distinctions, the ego emphasizes differences rather than similarities.
Yep.
Perpetuating the belief that we are isolated beings rather than interconnected parts of a larger whole. This perception of separation is a significant barrier to spiritual growth, as it creates a sense of disconnection from our true essence and the divine source.
The way this is brought out, it's the illusion of separateness is just reinforced by the ego's tendency to compare, to judge, and compete.
Think about that. Think of how competitive people are. Think of how competitive the world has become. There are industries built around competition.
Okay? I know, yeah.
And it's all ego. It's all pure ego. That lets you know that you're not functioning, through the spirit or the oneness. You're really functioning through ego, because ego creates that us against them, you see. And you see that a lot. So like in sports, for example, there's us against them. And most people are going to be for their team and others for their other team, whatever. But when it gets to the point where you start seeing people as separate from you, you're functioning through ego that is not godly, regardless of what people think or believe. It's just not what we would call spiritual. Anything that separates is ego. Just try to get it clear, If you judge people, if you have a judgmental condemnation attitude,
yeah,
you're functioning through ego.
Right.
If you're trying to harm someone and speaking of someone in a negative way or treating someone in a harmful way, it's ego. That's not coming from a place of love.
So our perception of separation is a barrier to our spiritual growth. It creates that disconnection from our true essence and from that divine that is within.
Right. And as long as a person functions through ego, you'll never be enlightened. You see, you can be a religious person all day and even a spiritual person to a degree, but to what we're talking about, Christ consciousness or UDO or Universal Divine Oneness, getting back to yourself, you'll have to, get the ego in balance. And once a person gets ego in balance, they lose interest in anything, the competitive stuff, the us against them, the world out, they realize their oneness, and then nothing means anything anymore of this world. It's bizarre. You don't have no desire for competitive things, you just don't.
Exactly.
Because you don't see them as us against them,
Right.
Once you are enlightened, you see everybody as one. You see? Now, there are negative aspects of the ego. Let's look at this now. It says, while the ego serves a practical purpose in organizing our sense of self, it also has several negative aspects that can impede spiritual development. Understanding these negative aspects is crucial for overcoming the ego's limitations and moving toward a more enlightened state of consciousness. Now, how do you know you're functioning through ego? Well, there's a lot of ways. I was remember Daphne and I were talking earlier. Here's a simple way: tell somebody that they are God.
Ooh, watch them cringe.
And you'll tell whether or not they're functioning through ego or if they're functioning through God. Because a person who is enlightened, they're like, yeah, of course, duh, I know this. What do you? Whereas if somebody is indoctrinated, okay, which means they're feeding the ego, which is where a lot of religion comes in, then guess what? Oh my God, it's blasphemy. You're blasphemy, or you're the devil, or the demons has got you, or you see the religious dogma and indoctrination is so ingrained.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I remember and I've said this before on the podcast, that the first time I heard this from a Wayne Dyer video, I cringed. I turned off the episode that I was listening to.
And what exactly
even though
was that he said that made you cringe? That way we'll know
you are God.
Okay.
I am God. I was still indoctrinated at that time.
Still in the
and
church, heavy. Okay.
Yeah, heavy in the church. And I cringed. I said, oh my God, this is blasphemy. I can't listen to this.
The devil.
And I turned it off. As much as I loved him, I turned it off and would not listen to that episode.
Yeah.
Went back later as I have awakened and matured spiritually, and it's like, I get that now.
Yeah.
I understand the divinity within each and every single one of us.
How can it not be?
Exactly.
We're all alive, aren't we? We're supposed to be with that life.
Yes.
What is that life?
Right.
Something's keeping you alive.
If you want to take it to Scripture, I blew my breath into them. They became a living soul. Yeah. God is within each and every one of us.
Yeah, if you want to look at it like that, it works. Whatever works. You can take it and, like you said, once you realize this, it's opening just so many doors. It's really mind blowing, and it will challenge your belief system.
Yeah,
which is a good thing. You want to be challenged, and you want to keep growing.
Yeah, and stepping into, how do you know you're operating out ego? Fear and anxiety.
That's right. Remember yesterday we had mentioned that fear as one end of the spectrum, the polarity on the other end is love. Okay, so fear is where you're going to find all your negative, what we call the ego mindset, the stuff that's really destroying mankind. And that's where your separateness lives, the illusion of separateness, the ego, the fear, the anxiety, the violence, the anger, all of that. Keep that in mind. So let's move on along. One of the most significant negative aspects of the ego is its role in generating fear and anxiety. The ego is constantly concerned with preserving its sense of self and maintaining its status and security. This often leads to feelings of insecurity, fear of failure, and anxiety about the future. The ego's preoccupation with self-preservation can create a state of constant stress and unease, which hinders spiritual growth and inner peace. Judgment and comparison. Mm-hmm. All right? Or if you fit under this category, you're functioning through ego. All right, it says that the ego thrives on comparison and judgment, which can lead to feelings of superiority or inferiority. Mm-hmm. By constantly measuring oneself against others, the ego fosters a sense of competition and rivalry, creating a divide between individuals. This judgmental mindset not only perpetuates the illusion of separateness, but also prevents genuine connections and empathy. It encourages a focus on external validation rather than internal growth. I like how that's said.
Me too.
Further obstructing the path to spiritual enlightenment. Attachment and desire. Okay. The ego is also driven by attachment and desire, which can lead to a constant pursuit of material possessions, status, and recognition. These desires are often fueled by the ego's need for validation and approval, leading to a never-ending cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. Think of the world of cell phones and selfies. The pursuit of external achievements and possessions can distract individuals from their true spiritual path and hinder their ability to experience inner fulfillment. Beautiful. Resistance to change. Here's a good one I see a lot. The ego resists change and seeks to maintain the status quo. It is invested in preserving familiar patterns and routines, which can create resistance to personal and spiritual growth. This resistance to change is often rooted in fear of the unknown and a desire to protect one's sense of identity. As a result, the ego can impede progress by clinging to outdated beliefs and habits that no longer serve one's highest good.
Wow. These are really just hitting the nail on the head. You can really tell when somebody is operating through the ego. Look at how many people are walking around with quote-unquote diseases, with anxiety, depression. That is nothing more than ego. And that clinging to outdated beliefs, clinging to habits that no longer serve your highest good is holding you back, which ties in with universal law of expansion. Now, we had mentioned this on the last episode that we were going to touch on this. I think now is the perfect time to tie this in, because the law of expansion, everyone was like, what is that? Okay, so this states that the universe is constantly growing and evolving, and so are we. The principle emphasizes the inherent nature of expansion and progress in all aspects of life, whether it's personal growth, consciousness, or abundance. It suggests that we have the capacity to continually expand our awareness, experiences, and possibilities.
And like Daphne said, just realize that you are ever expanding. Life is ever expanding. It's not stagnant. It's not okay, I'm done, I'm good, I'm saved, I'm covered. It's not just a one-time thing. And that's the challenge with a lot of belief systems today, even a lot of religious institutions.
Right.
All you got to do is just believe something. You don't have to do nothing.
Right. And that's where we have to let go of the outdated beliefs, the habits that no longer serve your highest good.
Right.
If you're stuck in ego, then you're probably not growing. You're probably feeling very dissatisfied with your life and everything that's going on around you.
Another way you can really tell ego is very defensive when somebody says something
the walls
to a
are
person.
up,
Yeah, like for example, someone may be concerned because you're smoking, okay? And they may offer their concern about that, but the first thing you do is get defensive about what you do, okay? And it's typically on the lines of, well, I'm old enough to do this, or, well, I'm such and such this, who are you to tell me, or you see, ego gets in the way, and I see it all the time. Now, how is somebody going to be able to get a message across to you if you're throwing up shields and ricocheting, if you're not even listening?
And walls, yeah.
So you're going to have to get your ego back in balance to be able to understand, whoa. And plus, once you get it back in balance, you won't be doing things to hurt yourself, like smoking and doing all that stuff anyway. So.
Right. So smoking is just a long-term suicide.
It's just suicide.
That's all it is a long-term suicide.
It is.
Instead of taking and
then it
ending it quickly in whatever manner,
you're doing it
You're
slowly.
doing it very slowly.
Yeah.
And what's the difference in somebody doing it quick or somebody doing it slow? It's the same thing, ending life.
LTS, guys, LTS, long-term suicide.
Yep.
You can't get around it because you do it to yourself. Can't blame anybody else. Now, moving on, the role in hindering spiritual growth. The ego's negative aspects play a significant role in hindering spiritual growth. Okay, guys? If you got an ego, you can't grow. I like that. There's our rhyme of the day.
Yeah. Rhyme of the day.
Yeah. By perpetuating the illusion of separateness, all right, and creating barriers to inner peace, The ego obstructs the path to enlightenment and self-realization. Overcoming these barriers requires a conscious effort to transcend the ego and embrace a more holistic and interconnected perspective. Now, this is the key, guys. We have to, some say, well, you've got to destroy the ego, and some say, well, no, you've just got to get it back in balance and all. What you really have to do is you have to transcend it, okay, and
Right.
put it in its place and quit functioning through it, okay? Get rid of all the garbage that doesn't, function and work with you now, and focus on, the oneness within. Go within and start working on that unity, or that UDO, or that Universal Divine Oneness, so. Okay, moving right on along, transcending the ego.
Oh, let's do
To
it.
overcome the ego's limitations, it is essential to engage in practices that promote self-awareness and self-transcendence. These practices involve confronting and transforming the negative aspects of the ego, allowing individuals to connect more deeply with their true essence and the divine.
Oh, wow. This is touching on what we discussed on a previous episode, the universal law of self-awareness. We covered this in a previous episode. And like I said, sit down, write out a pros and cons list. Say, this is my good side, this is my bad side. Work on the bad side. And that's the way this is even bringing about. We have to transform our negative aspects of ego, allowing individuals to connect more deeply with their true and divine essence.
Yeah. And the more you get the ego under control, the more you can work on. You're going to be doing it at the same time anyway. Keep doing the good. Keep working on it, because the more good you do, the more you do for others, that kind of thing, then that's also going to help to, get things in balance as far as transcending that
Being
ego.
in harmony with nature.
Yeah, and it's just realizing your
Everything,
oneness,
yeah.
Okay, so here is what you got to do, guys. Pick up some really good meditation and mindfulness practices, okay? Meditation and mindfulness are powerful tools for transcending the ego. Through meditation, individuals can develop a greater awareness of their thoughts and emotions, gaining insight into the ego's influence. Mindfulness practices help individuals stay present and connected to the moment, reducing the impact of the ego's judgments and comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
By incorporating meditation and mindfulness into daily routines, individuals can cultivate a deeper sense of inner peace and alignment with their spiritual goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So go to NDE world and go to the bookstore, guys. We have tons of books on meditations, mindfulness practices, the ego, getting a hold of it.
Controlling the monkey mind.
Yeah. How to control the monkey mind. And it's NDE world, the bookstore. All this stuff is covered, man. But there's so many different practices and all kind of things that people can put into practice to really start working on changing their lives. Yeah.
And it's so impactful when you can practice these things on the ego. It really puts it in place. It really does help you to grow spiritually when you can do that.
That's right. And when you start to meditate and you can get away from the outside noise and go within and really start focusing on you, okay, you get to start working on self-reflection, all right? Mm-hmm. And this is known as inner work now.
Yep.
All of the masters taught the same thing, that self-reflection and inner work are essential for understanding and addressing the ego's negative aspects. By examining one's beliefs, behaviors, and motivations, individuals can identify patterns driven by the ego and work to transform them. Mm-hmm. Journaling, introspection, and engaging in therapeutic practices can support this process of self-discovery and personal growth.
I love it.
By addressing the root causes of ego-driven behaviors, individuals can create space for spiritual transformation and align with their higher self.
I love this. Oh my gosh. Yeah, just when you become awakened, and there's many of many of us out there that are awakened and growing and know this. So, but I look back at the way I was before and where I am now, and I just feel my love just overflowing and bubbling. I'm always wanting to help and to share this information with others, and that's why I love doing this podcast, because it is helping other people, and that is always very rewarding and fulfilling to the ego, but at the same sense, the oneness that comes with that. You realize,
sounds like ego to me.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Sounds like
it's
ego to
in
me.
place. It's in place. You know what I mean?
Sounds like an excuse to me. Ego does excuses. I mean, it likes to throw those excuses. It's good at that.
Right.
I'm just messing with you.
No, I know.
Cultivating positive qualities. Cultivating positive qualities such as love, compassion, and humility,
What I was just talking about.
and practicing harmlessness, remember that one,
Oh, yes.
is
Harmlessness.
crucial for transcending the ego. These qualities counteract the ego's tendencies toward judgment, comparison, and attachment, fostering a sense of unity and interconnectedness. By developing and embodying these qualities, individuals can create a more harmonious and fulfilling life that reflects their true divine nature.
Wow.
Embracing vulnerability and openness. Embracing vulnerability and openness is another important aspect of transcending the ego. The ego often seeks to protect itself by maintaining a facade of strength and control.
I got this.
Who are you to tell me?
Right.
However, true spiritual growth requires a willingness to be vulnerable and open to new experiences. By letting go of the need for control and embracing vulnerability, individuals can foster deeper connections with others and experience greater spiritual fulfillment.
I am sensing and feeling the masculine and the feminine in this. Do you see this? Did you catch that?
Yeah.
What
It's
what is
off
the
balance.
what is the masculine? The ego, that I got this, I got control, and then on the feminine side, you got your vulnerability and your openness, where the masculine is closed and this is the way it is. The feminine, you
That's
got
right.
to have the balance in this.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. So the ego has all kinds of masks that it, functions through. So. Yeah, good observation. One of the biggest things that I've personally experienced talking to others, working with others, dealing with others, when it comes to ego, is many people are very defensive. They're very, like you said earlier, they're very closed. They're not open to what you have to say. Okay, even if it's out of love, even if it's out of concern, like we said earlier. Hey, I don't like it, that you're smoking. If somebody loves you, then you should respect that and love that about them, not get defensive. Hey, who are you to tell me? Or, hey,
whatever.
I've got this, or I'm old enough to smoke, or whatever the ego makes excuses of, or
Right.
excuses for, should I say. But when you really get the ego out of the way, you can be more in harmony with love and even that love intention that people are trying to share, or you can be more open to what people have to say, and you can grow. You can grow by listening to other people.
We're all here to help one another when we step into that role as one and realize that we are here to help each other grow.
Yeah. So that's one of the main things that I see when people are, they're very defensive. You can't talk to them. You can't tell them anything, And I hate that, because I'm the kind of person, well, I'll talk to you a couple of times, but if you're going to get defensive, really, I'm not going to waste my time talking to you. Really, I'm not. That's just my personality that I'm going to work on. I've got to work on if I need to, but, and
Love you,
I
but love
also
you from a distance.
Yeah, but I also practice the law of, non-interference as well. I don't get involved with other people's, their growth and their issues in their lives, But if I try to share something with someone and they want to shoot me down or throw up a wall or get defensive or something, that does get old quick, So after a while, you don't really feel like sharing much knowledge with people because ego gets in the way. Well, guess what? It's that person's loss. That person could have learned some of the most greatest spiritual insight and wisdom if they just shut up and listen. That's why you're given 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should listen more than you speak. So that's one of the things that I say personally is when you try to share something with someone from a different perspective, and 9 times out of 10, usually a higher spiritual perspective, and their ego thinks they know more than the spirit that's trying to get to them, and walls go up, they get defensive, they start talking back. It's nothing happens. You can't get through to a person like that, and that just shows how off a person is. That they are not really a spiritual person, not in the truest sense. Their ego thinks they're spiritual. You see, that's the lie that the ego produces. Well, I am spiritual. I am enlightened. I am all of this. No, you're not.
And we're all a work in progress.
Everyone is a work in progress. And on this plane, on the next plane, and it's going to take you thousands of years to get. You're not going to get this. Don't expect to get all this in this lifetime, guys. Okay.
That's what's called spiritual and soul growth.
You have been working on this. Those who are into this, like right now, like us, this is stuff you've been working on for many lifetimes. Don't think you just picked it up this time. This is...
Picked up the ball and ran with it.
Yeah, so people who are more spiritually evolved, chances are they've been working... Yeah, and keep in mind, guys, we are a work in progress, and you will not master divinity in one lifetime. It's going to take a lot of work. There are countries to this day that, they start their youngsters when they're old enough to walk and talk. They will start training them in this kind of stuff. I see it. I've watched it, and it's something I'm into. It fascinates me. But
that's what I was commenting on earlier was the different areas and religions of the world that does teach the oneness that's out, that is our world.
That's right, reality.
Yeah, exactly, thank you. Yeah, we have to really do like these other places do, and teach this to our children at a very young age instead of separating everything and causing more chaos and destruction in the world. When you can realize the divinity within each of us and live in harmony with nature around you, that's when our world is going to change. I mean, I've seen it and I've said it so many times. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, and once you see the divine in you, once you see it in yourself, then you simply just start to look for it in everything and everyone.
Yes, you do. You really do.
It's that simple. If you look at somebody instead of that's somebody else, that's them, regardless of their background, their color, their nationality, where they're from, their male, female, whatever their belief systems, whatever. You see, the ego's first thing is to judge and to separate, look at them as something separate. But when you become divine and notice that, hey, wait a minute, I really am all there is. I'm expressing myself through this form at this moment, but I'm also expressing myself through that form, and through that form, and through that form, that person, this person. When you get to see the divine within yourself, then you start to see the divine within others, and then that's when the real enlightenment and love things really start taking place, All right, the role of service and compassion. Service and compassion are integral to overcoming the ego's limitations. By serving others selflessly and practicing compassion, individuals can shift their focus from self-centered concerns to the well-being of others. Acts of service and compassion create a sense of unity and interconnectedness, counteracting the ego's tendency towards separation and competition. By integrating service and compassion into daily life, individuals can enhance their spiritual growth and contribute to a more harmonious world.
What was we just saying?
What do you think about that, Daphne?
I think that is absolutely wonderful. Just, we say we want a peaceful, harmonious world, but yet so many of us are acting in opposition to that. Right. Getting back to the oneness and the divinity within can help in creating a more harmonious and harmless, loving world.
That's right. That's right. So how do we integrate this into our daily lives? Integrating the principles of ego transcendence into daily life is essential for maintaining progress and alignment with spiritual goals. This involves making conscious choices that reflect one's spiritual values and fostering a sense of unity in all aspects of life. By incorporating practices such as meditation, self-reflection, and acts of service into daily routines, individuals can create a life that is consistent with their true essence and spiritual aspirations. Now, there will be some challenges and obstacles, all right? Now, the journey to transcending the ego is not without its challenges and obstacles, and we had touched base on this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The ego's resistance to change, fear of vulnerability, and attachment to familiar patterns can create significant hurdles on the path to spiritual growth. Overcoming these challenges requires persistence, dedication, and a willingness to confront and transform one's inner struggles. There's a lot of laws in play there, Daphne.
Oh my goodness, yes.
You know, you got the persistence, you got the dedication, the willingness. You know,
Think about the law of expansion
ongoing.
we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that ties right in with this.
It's a work, you know, and that's what separates this so much from a lot of mainstream religions where you don't have to do nothing. Well, it's already been done for you. You don't have to do nothing but get out and sin.
Law of self.
Go out and sin and do whatever because you're covered.
When you do that, you're breaking two of the universal laws. The law of autonomy.
Lots of them.
I'm thinking about ones that we've already covered on here. The law of autonomy and the law of self-responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two of the most, I feel, that we've covered. Two of the most important ones. Because the law of autonomy is your self-governance.
Yeah, you have the ability to govern and rule your own life, and you have the responsibility to do that as well. Since you have the ability, you have the responsibility. You see, it's no one else's responsibility.
Right.
For your walk.
Exactly.
For your spirituality. For your level of enlightenment and higher consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not a matter, I believe, I'm good, I'm covered. No. This is not what the real Jesus taught, not what the real Masters taught, what the real Yeshua taught.
Yeah, he taught the oneness.
Yeah,
because how many times did he actually say throughout Scripture, be of one mind?
Yeah.
Work together.
I pray that they all will be one, just like you and I are one.
Exactly.
You know?
So over and over, he taught this. But yet so many people overlook that.
Yeah.
When you're not awake. It slips your mind. It's not... You're not awake and aware of it. And that's why the Scripture says, arise, awake, O sleeper.
Well, once you understand that everything is what we call mind, everything is consciousness. Consciousness is mind. We call it these different things, but it's really that all there is. And consciousness has different degrees and levels of vibration. You know, and consciousness can materialize into matter here on, you know,
because what? We are gods. Yeah. We create our own world. Just look around you at the things we have created.
And even we, if you say we, you know, it's very true in that regard. But if you get back to that oneness, I created all this. Mm-hmm. I am you. I am me.
I am experiencing. I am.
I am is all there is. There is just the one.
Exactly. I am that. I am.
Right. So it's deep. You know, but when you start looking at things like that and just kind of reminding yourself, I am that. I am, you know. Mm-hmm. And we realize, oh, wow, it's hard to explain. It's just something you got to keep practicing.
I don't think it's hard to explain. I totally get it.
You get it, right. You know,
I really do, yeah.
It's easier to how do I say, experience it than explain it or express it.
Yeah, and that's why we're here, is to experience. It's not the good, the bad, the reward, the condemnation. It is to experience.
That's right. And keep in mind, guys, like we had mentioned earlier, you're going to put up a fight. You know, nobody in their right mind is going to want to kill themselves. You know, and that's what you're going to have to do. You have to kill yourself, your ego. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not saying go out there and jump in front of a car and you have to kill the body, you know, but The self is the ego, the illusion of who you think you are, and that's where you term, like we mentioned earlier, crucifixion. Daphne, if you don't mind, would you look that up real quick? We had mentioned it earlier when we first started the series, but that is the law of crucifixion, one of the universal laws, and we'll share that with you guys real quick. But the crucifixion is the discipline and going through that spiritual change that it's going to put up a fight. The ego is going to put up a fight because right now it's okay with everything. It controls everything, and but you're going to have to be crucified. And when you understand what the esoteric meaning of crucifixion is, Daphne, what does crucifixion mean according to the law of crucifixion?
So the universal divine law of crucifixion it refers to the concept of undergoing a transformative process of enlightenment by means of profound personal sacrifice, suffering, and ultimately spiritual rebirth or resurrection. This principle symbolizes the death of the old self and the emergence of a new enlightened self. And when we apply the law of crucifixion, we undergo a profound personal transformation by shedding old patterns and emerging as a more enlightened and spiritually aware being. This journey involves significant inner work, sacrifice, and the ultimate resurrection of a new, true you.
Absolutely. And it gives a whole different perspective to the meaning of Jesus and being crucified,
Exactly.
From what I understand, the esoteric teaching is he was expanded to this level of enlightenment at that age. Not that he was killed and hung on a cross like the story goes.
Right.
But in esoteric teachings, he lived to be in his 70s.
Right,
where the biblical teaching is, dying at 33 and then hung on the actual Roman crucifixion on a stake, but people are missing the actual spiritual meaning of what Yeshua or Jesus represents.
Symbology and all of it, yeah.
The analogy and the archetype and what it all means. So, okay, we've got a couple more little things to read here real quick. Maintaining commitment and persistence. Maintaining commitment and persistence is crucial for overcoming the ego's limitations and achieving spiritual growth. I like how it keeps throwing in there that the ego's limitations.
Right.
Keep in mind, you're functioning through the ego, you're always going to be limited. Mm-hmm. You're limited. But once you realize that you're God, what are you going to be able to do? Yeah, the divinity within you, what are you going to be able to do then?
Right. And a lot of people, and it's something that kind of helped me along the way, and because of our understanding, our illusion of what God truly is from a religious aspect, when you can really set that aside and start saying, okay, the divinity within.
Within all things.
Exactly. It helps you to accept it a little easier than saying,
Understand
you are God.
Yeah.
Because some people cringe at that, but I get it. So, but also I like the terminology of that for the divinity within.
Yeah. You can't deny it, guys.
It sounds a little better and rolls a little better.
Yeah. Especially depends on how really indoctrinated or ingrained a person is. It probably be a little softer to their, the ears or their palate,
You're right, yeah.
The journey is a continuous process of self-discovery. Mm-hmm. Keep that in mind. Continuous, guys.
Yep.
It's not, you found it, I'm good, I'm saved, I'm covered. No. Continuous. I can't stress that enough, and I won't stop stressing that. It is an ongoing lifestyle.
Oh, taking it biblically. Continue, keep searching and dig in as if searching for hidden gems and jewels.
That's right.
Continue on. Don't just say, oh, here it is. You stopped.
Yeah.
That's a continuous journey. And that's why the biblical record states that.
Yeah. And keep in mind that Christ is not a person. All right? Christ is this consciousness that
it's within
envelops
every one of us.
Everything. That's right. And it's the highest, purest form of it, okay? At the highest vibration. It's in everyone, and it is obtainable by everyone if you are willing to be disciplined and walk the walk like Jesus did, or like Lao Tzu did, or like Buddha did, or like Confucius, or any of these masters that, shine and showed us the way. So it says, by staying focused on spiritual practices, cultivating positive qualities and integrating ego transcendence principles into daily life. In other words, you practice daily, getting that ego transcended. Individuals can remain aligned with their spiritual goals and continue progressing on their path to enlightenment. Embracing the journey. Now, embracing the journey of ego transcendence involves accepting it as a lifelong process of growth and discovery.
Wow. Always ready and willing to learn.
Yes. It's not about reaching a final destination, but about embracing the ongoing process of becoming more attuned to one's true self and the divine. By approaching the journey with openness, curiosity, and willingness to learn, individuals can experience profound spiritual fulfillment and alignment with their higher self.
I love it.
Yeah. So right there, wow. Yeah, that has a lot of good information. And any comments on that one, Daphne, before we read the conclusion here?
Yeah, it's just embracing the journey, letting go of what we've been taught, what we've perceived is us, and the separateness, letting go of all that. And it's not about reaching a final destination, but embracing the ongoing process and becoming more attuned to our true divine self.
I love that. Which it really ties in what we've been kind of saying throughout the episodes.
Yes,
exactly. It's not okay, I got it, I'm saved, I'm covered. And because that makes you irresponsible. Like, you want to take it to the Bible, it makes you lukewarm. You see?
Ooh, don't say that. I'm not lukewarm.
Anyway, but there you go. Ego.
Yep. Sorry about that, people. Yeah,
anyways,
I've been there. It's the only reason I can express that.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, the conclusion here on this chapter, and I can't wait to do the next chapter on the next episode, and we'll give them a little taste of what that's going to be, but we'll go ahead and conclude this one real quick. The ego plays a significant role in shaping our sense of self and creating the illusion of separateness. Okay? While it does serve a practical purpose in organizing our individuality, it also has several negative aspects that can hinder spiritual growth. By understanding the origins and role of the ego, individuals can take steps to transcend its limitations and embrace a more interconnected and enlightened state of consciousness. This chapter has explored the development of the ego, its role in creating the illusion of separateness, and the negative aspects that can impede spiritual growth. The following chapters will provide further insights into practical strategies for overcoming the ego, calming the monkey mind, and adopting a healthy lifestyle that supports spiritual transformation. As you continue on your journey to Universal Divine Oneness, aka UDO, remember that transcending the ego is a crucial step toward achieving profound peace, joy, and unity. Final comments, Miss Daphne.
Yes, is that not what every single one of us want? Is peace, joy, and unity and love in our lives. I love that we're going into the steps how to, if you don't know how to do it, we're born with everything we need, so we do know how to do it. We just have to remember we know. So actual action steps, what we can do to realize our divinity, realizing what we can do and incorporate to make those changes that are so needed to find that peace, love, and unity and joy that is available to us.
Right. I like how you said that. And one of the main things, guys, you're going to take away from this whole series that I've learned from studying this, it's going to be about ego. You're going to hear ego brought up a lot.
Right.
You will hear that. In fact, ego is also referenced as your darker side, the devil, the devil within. In fact, let me put a plug real quick. Chapter 4. Yeah, on the next episode, chapter 4, okay, of the book. It's all about UDO, Universal Divine Oneness. You can get that on the website at NDE.world. Hit the bookstore. It's called Chapter 4, The Devil Within. Facing the shadows and understanding the metaphor of the devil within. Okay?
Oh.
And so I'll read you a couple little things here. It says, the metaphor of the devil within, quote unquote, serves as a powerful illustration of the darker aspects of the ego. Just as the devil is often depicted as a malevolent force that seeks to lead individuals astray, the devil within represents the negative traits and destructive behaviors rooted in the ego that can sabotage our well-being and spiritual growth. This internal adversary manifests as fears, insecurities, and unhealthy desires that undermine our true self and hinder our progress toward enlightenment. So we're going to be looking at that on the next episode. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh my gosh,
what do you
yes.
think, Daphne? I see you getting all antsy and everything and excited. Yeah, like you want to go and start this one like right now. Yeah,
right, exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm gonna hold my tongue on all of this because I have learned this to be true, and the Satan, the devil, is not an external source. That is a man-made construct. Mm-hmm. I'm going to leave that right there.
Like we talked about the Christ consciousness, that's the high vibration. Well, there is the low. The low vibrations, what we call the dark energies or whatever. That's your Satan. That's your
right.
devil. You know, you can either function through Christ consciousness or through the devil inside. So just keep that in mind, and we're going to really cover that. We're going to expose it. We're going to talk about where the roots, where all this stuff came from.
Right. We're going to tie in universal laws with this as well, and that's the purpose of this series is that the divine universal laws, which applies to all of everything, all of us, all dimensions, all universes. That's why they're called universal.
That's right, guys. That's right. That's right. And once you learn this and start putting it into practice, it's life-changing. It really is. So keep that in mind. Now, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. I see the time there on the wall. The clock says it's time to go ahead and get ready for the next show. And we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. And just tell everybody we really love you guys and appreciate you so much for tuning in. And don't forget to go to the website, at NDE.world. And guys, join us on our Facebook group. Go over there and like our page, the Facebook page. We've got all of our episodes on. It's over 100 episodes and growing. Join the Facebook group. Become interactive with us. That's why we created this, because we are a community raising the awareness of the masses. And if you're new to this, join in and start learning the process. Learn what's going on for your own spiritual growth. You know, we're here, and our NDEers are here for everyone to learn and grow from. Absolutely. I like that. Well said. We'll close on that note. Thank you guys for tuning in. We love you all so much. May peace be with you all. Until next time.
Y'all let your light shine.
Hello, you beautiful souls. Don't forget to visit the website, NDE.world. That is
NDE.world.